And so, besides the food, which we've been talking about for the last 3 days, there's also a mitzvah to honor Shabbat through clothing. So he's just repeating the same verse. So part of honoring Shabbat is making sure that one does not dress on Shabbat as he would during the week, with the restriction that we said yesterday, of course, that if somebody can't afford new clothing, they shouldn't waste it on clothing when you need food for Shabbat, because you can't eat clothing. Actually, even though we're being recorded, I still, 4 years later, don't understand how Corona created a shortage of toilet paper because people can't eat toilet paper. But anyway, so the idea is just basically that we honor Shabbat with clothing, and he's going to go into all the different details, but with that restriction or recommendation we said yesterday that to prioritize what is more important, and food is definitely more important than clothing. So rather, Shabbat clothes should be nicer and cleaner. Some authorities write in the name of the Arizal, because he didn't write anything down, by the way, that it is best not to wear anything on Shabbat that one has worn during the week. And this means that one's outer garments should be special for Shabbat and Yom Tov, and one's undergarments should be freshly laundered. Some buy special shoes for Shabbat as well, and Naalei Shabbat, what we call. One who is spending Shabbat alone should still dress up because the clothes are not meant to honor the people who see him, but to honor Shabbat. And this is an amazing tie to what we just talked about death. Um, that there's a lot of things in Ilchot Avelut and the laws of mourning that the rabbis differentiate between Yikra D'Chai and Yikra D'Shakiva, which means the honor of the people that are participating in the funeral and in the burial, and the people and the things that are done in honor of the deceased. So we are honoring Shabbat because we're honoring Shabbat, not related to anybody else that's there. So even if somebody is really alone, like maybe even somebody who lives in a place where there's no other Jews, and they're spending Shabbat at home, they should still dress up nicer than the rest of the week. One who unexpectedly finds himself somewhere for Shabbat and does not have Shabbat clothes available, or a poor person who owns only one garment, should do his best to make his clothing look nicer before Shabbat. Thus, we read in the Yerushalmi that Rabbi Simlai publicly taught that everyone should have two sets of clothing, one for the weekdays and one for Shabbat. His students cried, saying, "We are poor and we have only one garment." He said to them, "Nevertheless, you must beautify it before Shabbat." So I will give an example from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which was related to what we talked about yesterday about the coming of the Mashiach. So the Rebbe Lubavitch quoted his father-in-law, the sixth Rebbe of Lubavitch, saying that all we have to do now in preparation for Messiah is to shine the buttons on our suit jacket. So I'm guessing also overcoats and other things like that. Even if you only have one coat, that's or jacket, that's what you should do to make sure that they're clean and shiny. And even the poorest person in the world can take a little bit of vinegar and clean it, and it's more beautiful than any. Thus, soldiers must wear their dress uniforms on Shabbat. In Hebrew, by the way, it's called Madei Aleph, the uniform A as opposed to uniform B, which is the work clothes. And so most soldiers are able to do this. Sometimes when I was going down to the tank platform, I would change to the work clothes because I didn't want to get them dusty and the Shabbat, the Madei Aleph, dirty and dusty. And if that is not possible, they must clean their clothes and make them look as best they can. So that's, and of course, shine their shoes before Shabbat. That was a question that just before we joined the army. There was a group that was forced to shine their shoes on Shabbat, and the commander claimed that it was pikuach nefesh, but it wasn't. He had a very strange excuse, doesn't matter. But bottom line is, you must make sure that your army boots or any other kind of shoes are clean and shiny. And again, it doesn't take much. You don't have to go to a shoe shiner. You can take a little bit of olive oil and a rag and just wipe it. That works. One of the 10 ordinances instituted by Ezra the scribe is that clothing be washed on Thursday. This was when washing obviously did not take only an hour in the machine. There are two reasons for this ordinance. First, one should not wear dirty clothes on Shabbat. And second, since laundering was hard work, it was ordained to be done on Thursday so that people would have time to cook and clean the house on Friday. Nowadays, however, when washing is done by machine, one may do laundry on Friday because it is not too burdensome and it does not disrupt Shabbat preparations. Nevertheless, it is preferable that Shabbat clothing be washed on Thursday in accordance with Ezra's ordinance. And just to clarify, we have halachot, we have minagim, we have takanot, we have all kinds of categories, and the takanot were done for the betterment of our observant life as Jews in the diaspora. But of course, if that's actually making it harder, meaning I can't take off time from work on Thursday in order to do my laundry, and instead I will do it by machine on Friday, makes a lot more sense. And so we aren't going against Ezra, we're just saying, for us, that is not a takana. Another example, I think, could be the idea of kitniot on Pesach. The takana was because of mixing the bags in the open market of the spices and the legumes. And so they decided that that would be better if we completely separate it and don't eat the legumes on Pesach. But again, there's a lot of people today who are questioning certain things, especially if they weren't in that takana. For example, peanuts. Peanuts were definitely grow in North America, so they wouldn't have been included in that. And last, we can generalize from Ezra's ordinances that one should be careful not to turn Friday into a day full of hard and aggravating work. As we said, that you should take it a little bit easy and make sure that you don't come to Friday night exhausted. Rather, Friday should be left relatively free so that people can prepare for Shabbat in a relaxed and calm way, as explained in section 2 above. And we will stop here.